Hi, I'm Mark Levy, the Sourdough Simpleton, and today we're going to be discussing, well, we'll take a look at discard recipes. You know, I've been all over the web, Facebook pages and the like, and there are many, many sites which discuss discard recipes, recipes which use sourdough, but they only use discard. And the problem is that isn't always exactly the case. So decide to take a look at this and explain some of this to you. To begin with, what is discard? Well, discard, if you're feeding your starter and you're keeping it in a jar, you'll take some of this off to make an active starter, and what's left behind, which you've discarded, is discard. It may have a layer of hooch on top, as this does. It's old. It has no leavening power at this point in time. Lots of taste. Stir that hooch in, you get that good sourdough taste, but this can't really rise bread. In order to make it active, you have to feed it, let it sit for a couple of hours. We'll do that in another video. And then you'll have active starter. And then you can use that active starter to do whatever you want to do. However, you'll see people using discard. They say, well, this makes great bread. And the question is, how can that be? And here's the answer. First of all, if we're looking at a true discard recipe, a recipe which uses discard only as discard, there really aren't a lot of those. By the way, there's going to be three categories here, so pay attention. That first category we'll call true discard recipes. Now, if you look at the Sourdough Simpleton website, you'll see a couple of those. The most obvious and basic one is called fried starter. This is a recipe where you take starter and a little bit of water and some salt, and you fry it. You get like a pancake. It's very nice, tastes good. Check out the recipe, but that's just starter. A little bit more complicated than that is one with crackers, which we made a couple of months ago. Recipe calls for flour and assorted agents, but the starter that's used is discard to give it that nice sourdough taste, and it never really rises. So this is also a true discard recipe. More recently, I put up a recipe for a very simple cracker that uses basically starter, and you bake starter. Once again, there's no rising involved here. There's no leavening agent. All you're using is starter, and that's it. This is a true discard recipe. There's no rising involved. So you got that? That's category number one, the true discard recipe. We can move on to category number two. We're going to call this discard with a little help from my friend. That friend is a leavening agent, something to make the product rise. It can be a variety of things, and let's look at a couple of those recipes. First of all, we have one which calls for baking powder to make sourdough waffles. Baking powder is a combination of an alkaline and acid ingredient which produce carbon dioxide, which gives you the bubbles, which makes the product rise. Easy recipe to do, very, very tasty, and only takes a very short time to make because the leavening agent doesn't need time to rise. You mix it together and it's ready. So waffles is certainly one easy way to do that. We did another recipe where we used a little bit of yeast in a pizza crust. The yeast has to be given time to rise. Not a lot of time because yeast rises fairly quickly, but the yeast, we can call that a cheat to make the dough rise. We're still using discard to give it that great flavor, but it is the yeast which actually causes the dough to rise. In fact, you can make bread. There's a sandwich loaf, which we made way back at the beginning of this series, which also uses yeast to cause the dough to rise. The starter that's used is discard. It's inactive starter, unfed starter, but the bread comes out very good thanks to the addition of some yeast. A rustic loaf can also be made, which also uses yeast. And again, the yeast causes the rising. The sourdough starter, or the unfed starter, with the hooch in it, gives it that sourdough flavor. So again, you've got to add something to that unfed starter if you want it to rise. Now you can also use something simple like baking soda and thyme. So this gets on a little bit onto the next category, but we made a chocolate cake. Now, the chocolate cake used baking soda to help it rise, but we did let the dough sit for a while in order to develop a bit more of a rise. And that actually gets into our next category, which is, hold on, we're going to call this recipe not really discard at all. It's discard plus time yields an active starter. If you wanted your discard to become active, you would feed it, and then you would let it sit for a while so that it would rise over a couple of hours. Maybe 4 hours, maybe 6 hours, maybe longer, depending upon the ratio you use and the temperature of your room and all like that. Well, here's a recipe we made for a tangy loaf of sourdough bread, which used discard. The discard gave it the flavor because of the hooch in it that was discard. However, the rise came from activating the discard into real starter. So by mixing it up and letting it sit for long enough to convert the discard into active starter, you get the rise in the bread without having to add anything to it. Classically, if you're going to make a sourdough bread, you're going to use an active starter. And that's one step ahead of this. By using discard and then mixing it in and letting it sit, that's exactly what ends up happening. You activate that starter into you activate the discard into an active starter, and therefore you're left with a bread which you made with discard with no yeast, but that's actually an active starter because you activated the discard into starter. Okay, so 3 categories: a true discard recipe, like the crackers or the fried starter; a discard with a help of a leavening agent, which can be baking powder, baking soda, or yeast. And these are breads, waffles, and other baked goods which you can make. Or not really a discard at all. And that's where a lot of the recipes actually end up, because they're using discard. They're mixing up the flour and the water, and then they're giving it a couple of hours, sometimes overnight, to rise. And once you've done that, you really just fed your discard inside the dough, and you're using an active starter. So you could just as well start with an active starter and cut out some of the time that you're waiting for the discard to become active. I hope that was a help, because I've seen this question so many times, and I just felt like you had to have an answer for it. So that's today's episode of Sourdough Simpleton. We'll have more. Got a couple projects I'm working on, and you'll be seeing those in the months to come, weeks and months to come. So thanks for watching. Please do subscribe to the site. Check out the website, sourdoughsimpleton.com, and the Facebook page, Sourdough Simpleton. Love hearing your comments, love seeing your postings, and look forward to more of you joining along in this adventure with me. For right now, I'm Mark Levy, the Sourdough Simpleton, saying see you next time.